Okay, Baruch Hashem, we are holding a Daf Nun Daled Amud Aleph in Sanhedrin, and we are about 9 lines down from the wide lines. The article edition we're on 54A-2, and we are Baruch Hashem continuing, and in Sanhedrin. We last time we were learning about the sins that would get skila, we would get the punishment of stoning. And we had a pasuk in Vayikra 18:7. The pasuk said, "Ervat avicha ve'ervat imecha lo tigale imecha hi lo tigale ervata." And Rabbi Yehuda learned this pasuk. And Rabbi Yehuda said, when it says "ervat avicha," which literally translates as nakedness of your father, it does not mean the erva of your father. Rather, it means the erva of your father's wife. Ervat imecha means the nakedness of your mother, who may or may not be your father's wife. Lo tigaleh, do not reveal. Imechahi, she is your mother. So Yehuda said, oh, it says imechahi, it's coming to tell us that if a man is with his mother, who is also his father's wife, he only gets punished because of his mother, because imechahi, and not the second sin of being the father's wife, because the imechahi comes to be memayit, comes to exclude the sin of being with a father's wife. And that's the way he learned the pasuk, because he learned ervat avicha doesn't mean the nakedness of your father, rather it means the nakedness of your father's wife. So now the Rabbanan in the Mishnah, they said, no, you get punished for both. I mean, obviously you can't kill him twice with skila, but if he did it for shogeg, right, then you have to bring 2 chatat offerings. And or when he's doing the sin, which azhara, which warning do you give him? Okay, so the Rabbanon, what do they do with ervat avicha? You're not learning like Rabbi Yehuda that says it means ervat eshit avicha. So what do they do? Ervat avicha, mamosh. It means the actual nakedness of your father. So that means if someone had intimate relations with his father, so this is sodomizing his father, he would have now he would have the sin, ervat avicha. So Gemara says, "Hi, my ve'et zachar," right? Because there is a pasuk, vayikra yudchat chav beis that says ve'et zachar lo tishkav mishkevei isha to'evahi. So we know you're not allowed to be with another man. So what is this ervat avicha? Gemara answers, l'chayiv alov shetayim, to say that he's chayiv 2 times. He's chayiv for being with another male, and he's chayiv for being with his father. Rav Yehuda. And it's like Rav Yehuda. I'm Rav Yehuda. Nochri habal aviv chayiv shetayim. A guy who comes on his father, he is chayiv twice. Habal al achi aviv chayiv shetayim. Same thing if a man has intimate relations with his uncle, his father's brother, chayiv shetayim. Chayiv 2 times. Amar Rabbi says, Mistaber milsler Yehuda b'Yisrael b'shoyge v'korban. When he said Nachri, it doesn't mean guy, it means a Jew. And it's talking about he has to bring a korban, right? Because if it's skila, you only can get killed once. So it must be that they're talking about korbanot. The guy did it b'shogeg. He did it in one act of unawareness, and he committed a homosexual act with his father or his uncle. He has to bring 2 chatats. Why does it say guy? Lishnam al Yahu. It's a euphemism. We don't want to say that any Jew would even come to such a sin. So therefore, we don't want to use the word Yisrael. But that is actually what it means. Because if you think it's actually a guy, what's his din? Kitolam. So the goyim also have a din of arayot. That's one of the shiva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. They're not allowed to be with forbidden relations. One of them being with a man being with another man. But interesting by goyim that there is no need for a warning. There is no need for azhara. Not like by us, we need to warn a Jew, and then he has to accept the warning and accept the death penalty, and then he can be judged and killed. By goyim, they don't need any of that. Once he's doing the act, that's it. You kill him. Atola. So it cannot be that Rabbi Yehuda meant Nochri Abol Aviv Chayv Shtayim. Rather, he meant Yisrael Abol Aviv Chayv Shtayim. Can you possibly kill a guy twice? You can't. Once you kill any person, you kill him once. Therefore, when he says Chayv Shtayim, means bringing a korban and talking about a Jew who does it B'Shoigei. Tani Nami Hachi, he was also telling them right. Abol Aviv Chayv Shtayim. Someone who comes on his father, has intimate relations with his father, a man who has intimate relations with his father, Chayv Shtayim. Abol Achi, Aviv, person comes on to his father's brother, so his uncle Chayv Shtayim. He's also Chayv twice. Once for Ve'et Zachar, being with another male, and one for being with the Arayot that he's not allowed to be with. You could have some say like Rabbi Yehuda cannot be Rabbi Yehuda. He cannot be Rabbi Yehuda because Rabbi Yehuda heralds Erbat Avicha. Erbat Avicha is already used. Erbat Avicha means Erbat Eshes Avicha in that pasuk. Can't be Erbat Avicha doesn't mean mamish, doesn't mean being with his father. So you could have and others say I feel Rabbi Yehuda. No, even Rabbi Yehuda. You're right. Erbat Avicha is unavailable to say that it's actually your father's nakedness. That if you do it with your father, man does it with his father. That is Chayiv Shtayim, because that Erbat Avicha is already used to say your father's wife. But it's possible. Because you can learn from a Kal V'Chomer from Ochi Aviv. Right? There's a pasuk that says you're not allowed to be with the father's brother. Ervat Achi Avicha. It says, right? Uma Achi Aviv. The Kroiva, the Aviv who Chayiv Shtayim, Aviv Lekol Sheken. So it's a Kal V'Chomer. If a man is with his father's brother and he's Chayiv Shtayim, then of course if he's with his own father, he's also going to be Chayiv Shtayim. So it's a Kal V'Chomer. The Gemara says, "Become a fligi, be pilgrim the Bayim of having machlokes, a Bayim of Master Einish Min Hadin." And this is a big machlokes in Shas, and you be Einish Min Hadin or Master ain't Einish Min Hadin. What that means is, can we punish based on the Kal V'Chomer? Can we say there is a Kal V'Chomer? Does the punishment also go as well? Can we learn the whole? Can we compare it so much using the Kal V'Chomer? Can we say that the punishment also goes over? And that is a machlokas Shah and Shah. So maybe that's the machlokas here. Does Rabbi Yehuda hold if you with a person with his father, he also gets two Chaim Shtayim because if he's with his uncle, he definitely gets. Right, so his father also definitely gets. Can we say Onish Min Hadin? The only problem with this Onish Min Hadin is we paskin and the Gemara paskins this way that Onish Min Hadin is we never Onish Min Hadin. No one holds, even Abai doesn't hold that way. So how can the Gemara say here there's a machlokes Abai v'Rav? So the way that they explain this, the Aruch LaNer explains this, and the Aruch LaNer says, B'Kitzer, he says there's a Kal V'Chomer and there's a Kal V'Chomer. Okay, so what does that mean? There's a Kal V'Chomer that's a real Kal V'Chomer. We're learning one from another based on logic. But then there's a Kal V'Chomer that's not just logic building, but rather what we're going to call a Gilui Milta, which means, or Gilui Milsa, Gilui Milta, Gilui means to reveal, and Milsa means a word. It means that the Torah, that using the Kal V'Chomer, we explain what the pasuk is trying to say. Meaning it's not just a logic-based argument, Kal V'Chomer, but rather it's a revelation of the pasuk using a Kal V'Chomer, and that is where the machlokus is Abai v'Rava. If you can be Einish Min Hadin, because the pasuk says Ervat Avicha, right? Yehuda says that means Ervat Eshes Avicha, but then it says Ervat Achi Avicha, the father of your brother. You can't be. Also, it must be Ervat Avicha. Also, can be read literally, as you can't be with your father. Also. Now, how did I know that? I only know that through the Gilui Milsa of the Kal V'Chomer. And that's where the machloket of Onish Min Hadin is. Abai says yes, it could be Onish Min Hadin when it's a Kal V'Chomer that is a Gilui Milta. And Rabban says, no, you can't be Onish Min Hadin even if it's just a Gilui Milta. Okay, so far, so good. Rabbanon. So now that we have all this, the question on the rabbis is as follows. Azhara because they say Ervat Avicha means your actual father's nakedness. So where do they have an azara? Where do they have the warning? Remember, because every time you punish someone in Judaism, you need to have a pasuk that is the warning, and you need to have a pasuk that's the punishment. So where's the warning? Who said the warning was Ervat Avicha means Ervat Eshes Avicha? So but you're losing Ervat Avicha and say Ervat Avicha mamish. So where is your warning? So nafkelahu me Ervat Eshet Avicha lo te gale. There is the next pasuk, 18:8, right in Vayikra. It says Ervat Eish Avicha loy together. Ervat Avicha who? So it says Ervat Eish Avicha. So it says it beferish. Rabbi Yehuda. What do you do with this pasuk? You already said Ervat Avicha in 18:7 means Ervat Eish Avicha. So what do you do with Ervat Eish Avicha that says beferish in the next pasuk? It says you know why I need it? To tell me that even after my father dies, his wife is still off limits. She's still considered an erva of my father. So that's what I needed. Where do they learn that if someone is if the father dies, it's still considered an ervat avicha? They learn it from the end of that pasuk. The pasuk says ervat avicha, ervat avicha he, which means she is your father's nakedness. That means she remains your father's erva even after he dies. Rabbi Yehuda, what does he do with these words? He already learned that from the beginning of the pasuk. So what does he do with these words? Ervat avicha he. So he uses it for another mute, another exclusion. He said that if a man is with his father's wife, so there's two sins there, right? His father's wife is not his mother. Father's wife is not his mother. She has two sins. What's the two sins? It's his father's wife, and she's an Ashes Ish. She's a married woman, right? So he says the pasuk comes to tell you that even though there's two sins, the fact that she's a married woman and she's married to your father, you only get punished for her being married to your father and not because she's a married woman. The Gemara says, well, hold on. We have in our mission, it says if a man came onto his father's wife, he is chayav because of father's wife and because she's a married woman. But Yehuda doesn't argue in the Mishnah. He doesn't argue in this case that is chayav mishum eshes of or mishum eshes ish. Rabbiya, you're right. In the Mishnah, he doesn't argue, but he argues in a Braita. Interesting. The Ran says that there really is no Braita, but Abaye is just saying there could be a Braita. The only problem with this Ran is that there is actually a Tosefta that says that does say there Yehuda does argue in this case. So it might be that the Ran didn't have this Tosefta. He didn't have the version of the Tosefta, which is very possible. We see today even like there's a lot of manuscripts that are being found around the world from different Rishonim, from different time periods in Judaism that the Chachamim wrote that other Chachamim didn't see at the time. Right, a lot of times they use that in halacha. If Rabbi Yosef Kara would have seen this Rishon or this thing, he would have said halacha would be a little bit different. Can we rely on manuscripts? Do we hold that? And if they would, maybe the Chachamim would have held differently if they would have seen the writings of different Rishonim. That is a huge machlokes. Whether we can or can't, Chazon Ish on the other side. Not for today's topic, but the idea is that there could be Rishonim who didn't have all the texts and the versions that we have, and that we don't have what they have exactly. And we see this a lot of times. A lot of times they quote from a Yerushalmi or they quote from a Midrash, and we look for that in Yerushalmi, looking for that Midrash. It's not really existent by us, so it could be that over time the versions were lost, different words were lost. There was everything written by hand. So same idea. Some Rabbi says Paul no, he does argue in Raisa, and Rabbi Yehuda does argue on this case too, and that's why he uses the word Ervat Avicha. He needs to say that he only gets punished for being with his father's wife and not for being with a married woman. The Rabbanon and the Rabbanon. Okay, you show me the Azhara. You show me the pasuk for the warning that he cannot be with his father's wife. Onish the Eshit Aviv Lachar Mito Monalahu. Where do I see that they get the punishment for being with your father's wife after his death? You show me the warning for it. But where is the punishment for it? We saw last week from Yehuda learned it from Gzeir Shava, right? He compared the Gzeir Shava of the punishment to the pasuk for the warning, and it goes back and forth. So whatever's in the warning, whatever's in the punishment goes back and forth. And they don't learn this Gzeir Shava. So how do they learn that the punishment, that there's a pasuk for punishment if a person's with his father's wife after his father's death? So they tell you, Hahu, Ervat Aviv Gila. These words, the Mafik Rabbi Yehuda L'Gzeir Shava, the Yehuda uses for Gzeir Shava, I don't need to use it for Gzeir Shava, but Mafik Le'inu L'Anish Teishad Aviv L'Achrim. Those words are a little extra, and they could be used to teach the punishment but not through Gzeres Shava. Rabbanon, Onish le'imo she'enu eshet aviv manalahu. And the rabbis, from where do they derive punishment for being with one's mother who is not his father's wife? How do they see this punishment? Rav Shisha Ravidi, Omikra imecha ki, says your mother. Also, Akasa le'imo she'enu eshes aviv, ki imo she'eshes aviv. So the pasuk says your mother, whether she is your father's wife or whether your father is not your father's wife, they compare the both. And then the pasuk says that if you're with your father's wife, you get killed. Most you Moses, so you can learn that any mother, even any mother. So your mother who is your father's wife or mother who's not your father's wife, you would still get skila. Okay. And they have the chart. If you have the art scroll in 54A-3, that summarizes the various derivations according to Yehuda and the rabbis. Okay, so you have the pasuk on the left side, Ervat Avicha. So Yehuda learns that's warning for a father's wife, right? The rabbis hold this is mamush, means sodomy with a father. Ervat Amicha, warning for a mother who is not a father's wife. Chum hold the same thing. Imechahi limits liability for a mother who is also a father's wife to prohibition of just a mother. The rabbis on the home doors imechahi punishment for a mother who is not a father's wife. Next pasuk, Ervat Eshet Avicha, right? Warning for a father's wife after his death. The rabbis hold a warning for a father's wife. Ervat Avicha, he excludes liability for a married woman. But the warning, and then the Chachamim hold warning for a father's wife after his death. And Ervat Avicha Gila, Yehuda uses that for Gzeres Shava. Chachamim use that to say punishment for a father's wife after his death. A nice summary right there at the end. Next Gemara says, so someone has incest with his daughter-in-law, okay? And there we said Yechayev for two, right? For daughter-in-law and for Ashes Ish. She's married and she's your daughter-in-law. So Yechayev Nami Mishum Ashes Benos. Gemara says, why don't we make another one? Another prohibition. She's also Chayev because it's your son's wife. Okay, so you have to take a look at note 36. It says the pasuk over there, Eravat kalatecha lo tigala. Don't reveal your daughter-in-law's nakedness. Eshet binchahi, she is your son's wife. Lo tigale eravatat. So it says twice lo tigale. Once because she's your daughter-in-law, and once because she is your son's wife. So maybe I would say it's two different prohibitions. Abai says no, it's not two prohibitions. It starts off with your daughter-in-law and then ends off Eshet B'no. To tell you, Zohi Kalato, Zohu he Eshet B'no. One is this one that it says it's your Kala, your daughter-in-law. It also means she is your son-in-law's wife, your son's wife, and therefore it's one prohibition. So what is the pasuk trying to teach us? It says here in the it says here in the Masifta, that she is your son's wife. To tell us that she's still considered your son's wife, even if your son dies. So the erva remains. What we've been seeing is that once someone becomes an erva, she remains or he remains an erva even after the death. The only really exception would be the case of Yibum, right? Your brother's wife, which is an erva to you when they're married, but if he dies without any children, that's the only erva that becomes sort of mut at that time. Otherwise, it's always going to be okay. Now we're starting the next Mishnah. This Mishnah is going to be dealing primarily with, I'm not sure what you mean, Solomon, about divorce.
If the couple got divorced from the
Right.
father-in-law gets involved again.
Yeah, it's still going to consider it an erva. Still going to be considered an erva. All right, so she was a daughter-in-law, then they got divorced. She's still considered an erva to her father-in-law, to her ex-father-in-law. Yeah. Okay, I believe so. I'll double check later, but I believe that it remains the same. She's always going to be considered his kala for erva at least. Okay, now we're going to come. Remember, we're dealing with all the sins of the worst kind, because they're getting skila. Skila is the worst punishment. In this Mishnah, we learned, as we learned in the last Mishnah, or this Mishnah really expanding in the last Mishnah that we learned, haba al hazefur, someone who comes upon a male Jew who has intercourse, but obviously it's not a natural intercourse, who has intercourse with another male, right? Gets skila. It's considered the worst of sin, one of the worst of sins. To get skila. Skila is the worst punishment you can get. So it's not considered an alternate lifestyle. Rather, it's considered a to'eva, an abomination. So too, the Gemara compares it next case. Ba'al behema, it's in the same list. If someone has intercourse with an animal, bestiality, also gets skila. It's just that is bad. And so too, a woman who brings upon an animal on her, meaning that she is being penetrated by an animal, also would get skila. Mishnah says, what's going on with the animal? Why? Because the din is you're going to stone the animal as well. Im adam chata behema ma im adam chata behema ma chata. If a person made a sin, this man came and he had relations with an animal. What did the animal do wrong? The animal did it. Elefisha ba adam takala. Since something bad happened to a man, because of this animal, meaning he's getting punished and killed because of this animal. Therefore, it says we should kill the animal also, meaning because something bad came through it, so we kill it too. We don't want the animal walking around in the field, in the marketplace, and people are going to point to it and say, "Oh, you remember that guy that they executed with stoning because he did this animal? Oh, this is the animal that he was with." Right? We don't want people talking like that around. Therefore, we kill the animal too. Okay, that's the Mishnah. Now we're going to start talking about Zachar. The person is with a male. A male Jew is with another male. Right? This is also forbidden for Goyim. You already saw that. And they're Chayav Misa right away. You don't even need to give them a warning. By a Jew, you have to give them a warning. And they have to accept the warning, and then they can get killed with skila. Zachar Monolon. How do we know that if a man is with another man, they get punished with stoning? Tanarabanim. Because it was taught in the Braita. This is a Braita and Torah Kahanim, right? This is a Tosefta, Torah Kahanim Sifra. That says as follows. Okay, the pasuk we're going to be dealing with in its entirety. If you want to take a look into 42, and if you have the art scroll, that's the pasuk. If you have the Hebrew side, it's Torah Shalom Vav, and it says as follows: "Ish asher yishkav es zachar," and a man who lays with a yishkav means to sleep with. Ish asher yishkav es zachar, sleeps with another male. Mishkavei isha, the sleepings of a woman. Okay, the layings with a woman. So eva asu shnehem, they both did a toiva. The one who is doing the penetration and the one who's being penetrated, asu shnehem, they both do the teva. Mot yumatu demehemba. Both of them be killed. It says demehembam, so we know that's going to mean skila. Okay, so now let's look at the Braita. Ish prat likot. That means if a minor performs this act, he is not going to get killed. All right. Remember, you have to be a gadol in order to be in order for to get punished. Since he's a cotton, he doesn't get punished. Prat lekot. Ish man, yes, prat lekot. After yishkav it's zachar, who lays with a man, bein begadol bein kot. Okay, so this is the difference, and I'll explain it to you. If it is a adult male penetrating a adult male, both of them are chayvis. Both of them chayvis. Give them warnings, and they can both be killed with skila. If it's an adult male penetrating a child, okay, the adult male still gets skila because it says asher yishkav et zachar. It doesn't say asher yishkav et ish. Then he penetrated a gadol. It says penetrated a male. So therefore, if an adult male penetrates even a child, that adult male will also get skila. Now the cotton can't get skila because the cotton is a cotton, so you can't give him skila. There is one other case that works the other way. The child penetrates an adult. Okay, okay, a child penetrates an adult. So here there will be a distinction in the age. We hold halacha that any bia, any penetration from a child less than 9 years on one day is not considered an halachic penetration, halachic yishka. So therefore, if it is a child that's less than 9 years old, now I don't know if these cases are even possible. I'm just talking on a halachic stance. So if it's a 9-year-old, less than 9 years, I say 8. Let's say he's 8 years old, 8.5, whatever it is, and he penetrates a gadol. So at this point, neither of them get skila because he's a cotton. He obviously doesn't. But his bia that he penetrates and he's with, the gadol is not considered a halachic yishka. But if he is 9 years old and above, right, then it is considered a bia, and it is considered a penetration. So therefore, he's a cotton. He can't get punished. His laying with this gadol it is considered halachic bia, and therefore the gadol will be executed. That is the difference. So if it's a gadol penetrating, whether it's a cotton or gadol, the gadol is doing the active part. He is chayiv skila. The gadol is always chayiv skila if he's the active participant. If he is the passive participant, so then it makes a difference if the person who's doing it is less than 9 or above. Okay, and any cotton is going to be potter. He doesn't get. Okay, now it says mishkave isha. What does this mean? Maglacha kaser shnei mishkavos beisha comes to tell us that there are two types of layings with a woman, two types of relations with a woman. What we will call darka v'shloikedarka, natural and not natural. So just explain so we have an idea. We know what we're talking about. Obviously, we might know, but I want to just explain so we're not confused. So the woman has a vaginal canal, and she also, like all people, has a anal side, right? The front and the back. So here the pasuk says mishkaveh, the layings in plural. We learn from here something that even though it's shaloi kedarka, it's not the normal way to go into the anal side. But if a man does do that, it is considered mishkaveh isha. It is considered relations. The meaning that if she did that with, let's say she's married and she is committing adultery, and the man who's committing adultery to her penetrates her through the shaloi kedarka, through the anal side, that is considered mishkaveh, and they're both chayav mitah. They're both chayav mitah because it is considered mishkaveh isha. That's what we learn from here, and from the fact
that considered karet.
Yeah.
Karet.
Yep. If they don't get the warning, but if they got the warning, right, you can kill them with chenik afterwards if she's fully married, right? If she's in the suah. Yeah, 100%. Anal penetration is considered mishkaveh. It's considered same thing as vaginal. It's the same halachic principle.
But I think isn't it goes by whatever is the natural way of doing?
No, that's what we're saying.
No?
That's what the Gemara says. Mishkaveh isha. It says the layings, calculations. It means plural. Maglacha kaser shnei mishkaveh beisha. There are two types of layings with a woman. Amar Yishmael, now we learn two things from here. That's why you're chayav isa when you're with a man, because if it's not considered penetration, if it's not considered a way of laying with a woman, then it's not considered a way of laying with a man. That's fact, because the only way a man can penetrate a man is through his anal side. So therefore, it's also considered mishkaveh. Same way, if you were with a woman, whether through the vaginal canal, through the anal canal, it's still considered mishkaveh isha. So therefore, when you're with a man and you penetrate through the anus, it's the same thing as a mishkaveh isha, and that is considered the sin. So we learn now that the law of sodomy, because it says by a woman, that there's two types of layings with her. So that's the answer. Now, how do you know the punishment? Mot yumatu. It says they shall surely die. Beskila, with stoning. I remember skila. You say that if a man is with another man, he gets skila. or maybe it's one or the other. Maybe it's herrig, maybe it's chenik, maybe it's seifel. How do I know it's skila? Never condemn bum because it says over here demehim bum, their bloods upon themselves. The never yaduni, it says by the magicians, the over yaduni. It says there you stone them demehim bum because their blood is on them. So we made exer shava. Mila alma skila, just like over there it's with skila. Afkan this skila. So to here it's with skila. So we see the sin, we saw the parameters of the sin, we saw the punishment of the sin. So the Gemara says, we start in Nun Dalit, Amid Base, 54B1. Onish Shamanu. We learned the punishment, but we can't punish someone, can't punish a Jew, until you also have a pasuk that gives you the warning. Azhara minai. Where do we know the warning? Hamud Leimer, the pasuk says, the Et Zachar is another pasuk in Vayikra that said the Et Zachar and the male loy tishkav. Don't lay with him, mishkevei isha, the way you lay with a woman, right? There's two ways to lay with the woman. One of them is the same way you can lay with the man. So evahi, it's considered an abomination. So we see the warning. It doesn't say there anything about punishment. It says about warning over there. So now the Gemara says, good. We see the warning for the one who is being the active participant, the one who is doing the penetration. Azhara lenishka minayin. What about the passive one who is being penetrated? How do we know that he gets misa? Where's the warning for him? And the punishment says you kill them both, but where is the warning for him? You can't punish without a warning. So where is the pasuk for the warning? Rabbi Shmuel says, let's see, Talmud Leimer, lo yeh kodesh mibnei Yisrael. It says in Devarim that you're not allowed to have a Kaddish, right? And the Kaddish means a male prostitute, just for our explanation today. Well, a Kaddish, it means a male prostitute, should not be B'nai Yisrael, right? So male prostitute obviously is being penetrated. One of the ways. The Lo Kaddish, shouldn't be a Kaddish. And it says, it says that the Canaanim were kicked out because they had all these forms of abominations. This is the words of Ishmael, that Loye Kaddish don't have a male prostitute. That comes to tell us that that's the warning that you're not allowed to be penetrated. And therefore, if he's being penetrated by another male, he would be Chayav Misa. Ishmael. Kiva says, I don't need this pasuk Loye Kaddish. Because it says the same pasuk. A male should not have the layings with a male as he has layings with the way he sleeps with a woman, right? Now it says loy tishka, but you can read it kri be le loy tishache, but you can read it as lo tishache, meaning the word you can change in the kudos, and tishkav can also be read tishache, which means the submissive one, right? Not to submit to it. That's the way Akiva says it's the same pasuk, just different vowels on the word, and you can have it mean something else. The only problem with this, right, the Mefarshim say, there's the issue because on Daf Dalit, way back, right, about 50 dafim ago, when we started Masechet Sanhedrin, we had there a whole machlokas. When the pasuk says something, do we go the way we read it, or do we go the way it's just the letters are in the Torah? And Rabbi Akiva said we must go aim lemikra. We must go with the way we read it. So how could Rabbi Akiva come here and say, oh, we can read it both ways? Can't read it both ways. It's either one way or the other way, right? You read it, you go with the way you read it. You don't go with the way you don't read it. That's what Rabbi Akiva said in Daf Dalit. It's a huge machlokas there. Rabbi Akiva was very strong in the shot. How come now he can come and say you can read it another way? So the Ran and the Yad Ramah explained that the truth is that word tishkav can also be used for the submissive partner, the one who is being penetrated. And he says how Ran says he has a proof. Because we have in Bereshit, when Lot's daughters, right, they make him drunk, and then they have a union with him to have children, right? They think the world's coming to an end, it's only them and their father. So they do this. And the pasuk says over there, Hein shechafti emesh et avi. They said, we laid with our father, and they used the active term as the one who would penetrate, but they're not penetrating, they're females. So the fact that is that sometimes the Torah uses the active verb for those who are being passive in the act. Obviously, they may not have been not using the active passive, the one who's actually doing the motions, but rather here we're looking at the penetration, the one who is penetrating versus the one who is being penetrated. So you see, sometimes the one who is being penetrated can use the lashon of tishkav and not tishachev. So therefore, Rabbi Kiva says you can read the word different. Not that you're reading the word different, but rather the word itself in the Torah can be used sometimes for the other action as well, not just for the one who is penetrating, but the one who is being penetrated as well. That's the Rabbi Akiva learned. Now, as we compare the animal of the male being with a male being to an animal, so let's see now. How do we know if a person is with an animal, right? That he gets skila? How do we know this? It says as follows: the Tana Rabbanon, the Rabbi Shtor in the Brayta, Ish, a man, right? So this is a pasuk in Vayikra. If you want to take a look at the whole pasuk, if you're in the art scroll, it's note 7 on our page 54b1. Pasuk reads, "Ve'ish asher yitain shachavto b'behema," a man who will lay with an animal, mot yumat, ve'eta behema taharogu, kill them and kill the animal. So ish means patla katan, right? Already know this. Katan, if a katan penetrates an animal, then you don't punish him. He's not punishable. Asher yiten shochto bebehema, who lays with an animal, says animal. Mean ben gadol ben katana. Doesn't make a difference how old the animal is. Even if it's 1 day old, doesn't make a difference. If it's 1,000 years old, doesn't make a difference. The man who is boil, who penetrates an animal, he gets death penalty. Mot yumat, kill him with what? With skila, with stoning. You say with stoning, we call me maybe it means with any other. How do I know? Nemerkan taharogu. It says the word taharogu, even though it's talking about the animal. It's in the pasuk. But nemer lahalon, it says over there, ki taharog tahargenu. This is a man who causes others to do avodah zara. It says you kill him with skila, and he uses the lashon tahargenu. So it's gzer shava. Malahalam skila. Just over there, it says taharogu by the guy who caused another person to do avodah zara, and it says kill him with stoning, and it says use the word taharogu. So Avkam skila. So here too, where it says taharogu, it means with skila. So we see that if a man is boil, man is penetrating an animal, he gets skila. Lamadnu oynish l'shoicha. We see that he gets stoning for causing for penetrating the animal. Onish l'nishka. But how do I know if the man is penetrated by the animal? So he causes the animal to penetrate. Right? How do we know now that he gets misa? Talmud Loimer, because it says this is a pasuk in Shemot, kol shoichit in behema mot yumat. Anyone who lays with an animal, mot yumat, kol shoichit, right? So im Indian l'shoichit. Now it says shoichit meaning the one who penetrates, but I already know the one who penetrates because we have another pasuk in Vayikra that says the one who penetrates gets it. So if I don't need it for talking about the one who penetrates, it's new in the Indian l'nishkab. So let's learn it for the one who submits and be penetrated by the animal. So we have another pasuk, and from that pasuk we learn. So now, lamadnu oynish ben l'shaycha ben l'nishka. We already learned. We saw the psukim for the one who penetrates an animal and the one who is penetrated by an animal. That we can't punish anyone without a warning. So where is our warning pasuk? Al-haram minayin. Where is the warning in the Torah? So Talmud Loimer. We have another pasuk in Vayikra. It says, you shall not lay with any animal to be contaminated with it. So this is a warning for the one who is doing the penetration. It says the active penetration. The one being penetrated, where is the warning? Don't have a male prostitute. The Aymer Gam Kaddish Yebaretz, and Rabbi Shmuel says that Kaddish can also mean one who gets penetrated, not just the male prostitute that's penetrated by other males, but rather someone who can also get penetrated by an animal. So there's the Kaddish also can mean that. Rabbi Akiva says, I don't need any extra pasuk. And the word shachavtcha, the layings we already saw, It also can mean lo titain shechavtcha. The same word that's used for the one who's actively penetrating can also sometimes be used for the one who's being penetrated. Sometimes the lashon of the Torah is to use that same word that usually means active penetration to the one who's being submissive and being penetrated. Okay, so now we see the Azhara. Now, the Gemara is going to show the differences between these opinions and how many times a person is chayav for them. Okay, now we already know these people did these things on purpose, okay, and they got warned, and the warning was accepted, and they still did it. Then they do it, and then we can give them skila, right? They come to basin, and we go through the thing, and we can punish them with a death. But what happens? The person does it b'shoigeg. He does it accidentally. I don't know how these things happen accidentally. Someone in Shul and Shabbos said maybe the guy drank too much whiskey. I don't know, but let's say halachically it happened. What we define as shogeg inadvertently. He doesn't know what he's doing, and he is doing two averos at the same time. Okay. Masechet Shabbos tells us that that if we do the same sin over and over again under the same time of unawareness, we forgot it Shabbos. Let's say we forgot it Shabbat, and we go and we do Chilul Shabbat over and over and over again. Okay, I go to my field and I start plowing my field on Shabbat over and over and over again. I only have to bring one carbon because I forgot that it was Shabbos and I did so much, but I did the same halacha over and over again. I only have to bring one carbon. Okay, if I remember it and did it again, I remembered Shabbos, and then I forgot and then did it again, then I have to bring two carbon. So here's the case. This guy, in one period of unawareness, he penetrated a male and then had a male penetrate him. So how many sins did he do? Right? So remember a bow, right? Bow said, he has to bring two korban chatas twice. Why? Because one of them was a warning: do not lay with a man. Tishka, right? Don't penetrate a man. So that's one sin. And then we had another sin: kaddish. You shouldn't be a kaddish, meaning you shouldn't be penetrated by a male. Therefore, you have to bring two korbanot because it was two separate sins. It wasn't the same sin over and over. But Diri Akiva says, no, you only chayiv one. Why? Because I say the word loy tishka teaches me both, right? That's the warning for both. Loy tishka, don't penetrate, and don't be penetrated. Loy tishachev chadahi. It's one warning, therefore it's one sin. Therefore, you only have to bring one chata. Okay? That's the case of a man being with a man, and then a man being with a man. A baal behema, the hevi behema Allah. What about the case if a man is with an animal, he penetrates the animal, and then he causes the animal to penetrate him? He's going to be chayiv two chatat offerings if he did it all b'shoigeg. Why? Chada miloiti chain shachavcha. One pasuk says, "Don't give your layings with an animal." So that's the warning of not penetrating an animal. Chada, the other way to learn it, that when not to get penetrated, lo yeh kaddish, right? That's what Rabbi Bo said. But therefore, he has to bring two korbanos because it's two different warnings. Rabbi Akiva says, no, you only bring one. Why? I learned don't penetrate and don't be penetrated is all from the same word. Therefore, it's one sin. Therefore, he did it in one act of unawareness. He only has to bring one chatat. Bayomer, Abaya says, Rabbi Bo, no. Even Rabbi Yishmael doesn't learn like you. I feel that Rabbi Yishmael nami einu chayiv ela achas. He's still, if a man is penetrated by an animal and then he penetrates the animal, and then animal penetrates him, he's only chayiv one. The word lo yeh kaddish is not applied to animals. Right? Lo yeh kaddish means don't be a male prostitute. It doesn't mean being penetrated by an animal. So the gavrik, it's only talking about humans. Ela Bishmal, Azhara l'nishkav manoli. So where do we have the Azhara, the warning to not be penetrated by an animal? Nafkilei mikol shaychim behema mos yumas. Pasuk and Shemot. Remember that pasuk? So that's where the warning is. If we don't need it for the one who's doing the penetration, so we learn it for the one who's being penetrated. And we see that the Torah is saying that the one being penetrated has the same language as the one doing the penetration. The so to the one who is we have the punishment for the one who is committing the penetration, and we have the warning. So too, the one who is being penetrated by the animal is the punishment and a warning, and it's the same exact one. Therefore, it is only one carbon that is brought. So we have in this case of penetrating the animal and then being penetrated by the animal, three opinions of how many carbonos has to be brought. According to Rabbi Abo, you have to have two, because one of them is don't lay with an animal, and one of them is don't be a kaddish, don't be like a male prostitute who takes the penetration of an animal. Then Rabbi Akiva says, no, I learned two warnings from the same word, so therefore it's only one carbon. And then Rabbi Shmuel, then Rabbi Abaya says, no, even Rabbi Shmuel will hold only one, because he does say it's from the same word that we learned it from, therefore it's only one. Two more cases. This guy is penetrated by a male, and then he's penetrated by an animal. How many carbonos he has to bring if everything was done in one act of unawareness? Rabbi Bahu says, the Rabbi Akiva, according to Rabbi Akiva, he has to be two carbonos. Why? One, because of don't lay with a male as you lay with a woman, right? So that's one, right? Don't lay with an animal, right? So you have to bring two carbonos. It's two different sins. But according to Rabbi Shmuel, he only is chayav one, right? Because according to Rabbi Shmuel, in Abahu's opinion, Rabbi Shmuel is that being penetrated by a male and being penetrated by an animal is from the same pasuk of lo yeh kodesh. You shouldn't be a male prostitute. So therefore, he's only chayav one. Rabbi says, further Rishmal, still you would need two. Why? Because he doesn't say being penetrated by an animal is the pasuk lo yeh kodesh. He says you use the word of shoichev of an animal. The chtiv kol shoichev behemoth you must, and im ein English shoichev. I don't need to teach you about penetrating an animal because I already have the pasuk. So it means being penetrated by an animal. After Rachmanosh shoichev, and the Gemara compares one being submissive to the one who is doing the active penetration. So we see that according to Rabbi Akiva and according to Abaya, you need to bring two carbonos. According to Rabbi Abahu in Rabbi Shmuel, you only need to bring one carbon because both of them is lo yeh kodesh. Now, the final case, and this is the most strangest of cases, but here's the case. Aval haba ala zocher, the heavy zocher Allah. Okay, this man, in one act of unawareness, he penetrates the male and then is penetrated by a male. Then he is penetrating an animal, and then he makes an animal penetrate him, all in one act of unawareness. How many sins is this? How many carbonos he has to bring? So, Bein Rabbi Abahu, Bein le'Abaya, Rabbi Shmuel chayiv shalosh. Rabbi Shmuel would say you need three, according to both Abaya and according to Abahu. Why? Okay, so let's work this out. So he has here four sins. He penetrates the male penetrates him. He penetrates the animal penetrates him. So let's do Abahu first. Abahu says being penetrated both by the male and both by the animal is lo yeh kodesh. Shouldn't be a male prostitute. So that's one sin. And then you have the sin of penetrating a male, which is one more pasuk. And then you have the sin of being of penetrating an animal, which is a separate pasuk. So you have two sins. That's Abahu. According to Abaya in Rabbi Shmuel. So according to Abaya in Rabbi Shmuel, penetrating by an animal and being penetrated by an animal, that is one pasuk. Okay, that is one pasuk, one sin. And then penetrating and male is one pasuk, and then being penetrated by a male is lo yeh kodesh. So it's the third pasuk. Therefore, it's three. What about Rabbi Akiva? Rabbi Akiva chayev shitayim. Rabbi Akiva only in this case, where there's four sins, you only have to bring two carbonos. Why? Because penetrating a male and being penetrated by a male is the same pasuk for the warning, one azhara, and being penetrating an animal and being penetrated by an animal is also one pasuk, and therefore it is only two sins, two warnings, two sins, two carbonos that they have to bring if this is done. All the shoyging in one act of forgetfulness, you have to bring only two carbonos according to Rabbi. Okay, we'll end here for today. If you have any questions, I will take it at this time. Otherwise, we finish for today. Everyone's good? Everyone got it? Baruch Hashem. Todah rabah, Shavua tov l'kulam.